What's up, LEGO builders? It's time to introduce the newest faction in my custom LEGO world. A hardened group of humans who survived the apocalyptic biowars in a harsh jungle and are now flexing their military might. High-tech combat suits and advanced guns are just the tip of the iceberg here, as this faction's specialty are mechs of all sizes and destructive capabilities. If you're hyped, don't forget to open fire on that like button, and let's get building. This new faction is called the Free People State of Cocondra, or the FPSC, and while they're just now being introduced into the story, they've been around for a while. I'm going to talk more about their origins later in the video, but for now, here's a map representing part of Cocondra, the continent they live on. I got the idea from 1x1 Brick, who made a map of his fantasy world, which is just such a good way to help people visualize what's going on. This is Moenia Prime, the mega city I've been building for the last year, which belongs to the HATF, and this is the jungle stronghold of the FPSC. It's hundreds of miles from Moenia Prime, but they've begun to clash with the HAEF, an expansion force for the HATF who are venturing out of mega cities, searching for resources and potential new places to inhabit. A growing hostility has built between the two sides, who already share a tense history, and now it's looking like war is on the horizon. Over the years, the FPSC has built up an impressive army of mechs and soldiers, which is what we're going to take a look at next. First things first, I need to get an infantry established because what's an army without its grunts? I found this nice pair of dark tan legs and swapped out the hips for a lime pair. I then added some lime green arms to the torso, not worrying about the printing because it'll be covered up by armor. This helmet is the genesis for all the dark tan of this faction because as soon as I found it, I knew it would be perfect for a sci-fi soldier. These lime visors accentuate the armor nicely, bulking it up with a little extra detail. This particular unit is a sniper, and since I've been trying to use only official LEGO weapons, I thought I'd build my own. This LEGO gun made the perfect base for a custom stock, magazine, scope, and elongated barrel to complete a fearsome weapon that can target anything up to a light tank. Snipers are a key component of many military operations, whether offensive or defensive. This particular model is quite large and a little unwieldy, but that size provides some awesome range and firepower, allowing the operator to pick off their targets with ease well out of harm's way before the enemy even knows what hit them. Next up is the common grunt. This is the guy doing the dirty work. From charging a wave of bio nightmares to patrolling the perimeters of a base, this unit is indispensable to the FPSC. One of the main armaments is this LP5 Lamenter, a laser-based weapon and their equivalent to a standard assault rifle, though a little more powerful. While one of the lowest ranks in the military, the grunts are well trained and equipped with high-tech armor and suits that have built-in early warning systems and various forms of sight enhancement, making them a mighty foe on the battlefield. Some of the more artistic soldiers have taken to decorating their armor to the chagrin of the commanding officers. And speaking of them, military commanders are designated by black stripes on the shoulder representing various ones. This is all the combat infantry units the HAEF have encountered so far, but they assume other units like heavy weapon specialists, power armor units, and medics must exist as well. Non-combat units have been observed acting as general maintenance and ground crews for various vehicles and outposts and bases. They wear a similar dark tan and lime suit, but with less armor and a different, more open helmet. Some have also been observed operating these small exoskeletons, which the HAEF are very interested in acquiring to help with their own logistics and just to help humanity move forward in robotic tech. Not a single FPSC person has been seen without a helmet or covering of some kind, leading the HAEF scientists to wonder if the years spent out in the mutated jungle and bad air has genetically mutated or altered the people of this area. And that's about it for what's been learned about the infantry so far. Now it's time to take a look at the FPSC's greatest weapon, mechs. Similar to the Protectorate faction, these mechs are split into different classes. First being light class, but unlike the Protectorates, these are piloted by humans and as such have a much bigger cockpit and a more humanoid anatomy. Some of you will recognize this as the mech I built in my video a while back discussing the differences between exosuits, power armor, and mechs. It was meant to represent the mech example and it did its job, but I wasn't really happy with the design. It felt a little too simplistic and plain, almost like it was a Lego set. So I beefed things up and improved on some aspects of the design. I am undecided on the name for this one, so drop any suggestions you might have in the comments below. This video marks the beginning of a big shift in my mocks. Up until now, most of my mechs were strange, almost insect-like in design, but the mechs of the FPSC are distinctly humanoid, which provides a whole new slate of design challenges to overcome. This mech is highly versatile and adaptable. Armed with a high-powered laser cannon, its primary role is as a lightning strike unit, quickly dropping into combat zones or high-stakes situations out of nowhere to surprise the enemy and break formations so larger teams can come in and do their work. This speed comes at the cost of protection and cover for the pilot though, so if one of these gets caught in the crosshairs, it's bad news bears. The medium class mech is the sweet spot for the FPSC. Not too small and weak, but not overly large and cumbersome. As a result, most of their mechs fall into this category, and there are few more fearsome than the MC-23 Minotaur. The HAEF have bumped into these more than a few times and rarely come out of that scenario on top. This appears to be a general purpose mech that can be outfitted for multiple different roles. This is the Scout/Infiltration variant, armed with a massive combat knife that can slice through a truck and an assault rifle bigger than that croc your grandpa said he saw. This is something you do not want to come across while strolling through the jungle. This is probably the best mech I've ever built. It's proportioned well, looks mechanical, and has what I consider to be a pretty unique design. This variant is seen the most and were the same mechs that launched a surprise attack on Millennia Prime during the Quadrant War. It's still not certain how they were able to get up to the city walls undetected, but their ability to seemingly appear right on top of a force before being spotted is quite concerning given their size. They don't turn invisible, so it's thought that the blades on the back work as some kind of cloaking or dampening ability to help this mech sneak around. The final mech I'll be building today is one of the largest in the FPSC arsenal. It's somewhere between a heavy and Titan class mech and wields enough firepower to take on scores of enemies as long as it has the proper escort. It's a relic from the older days when mechs towered over everything else but were slower and more cumbersome, acting like artillery or battleships, hammering an enemy's forces from just behind their own front lines. Newer mechs are slightly smaller and more agile, better suited to the dense jungles and rocky landscapes, so these mechs are only called in when heavy ordnance is required. The body and legs are going to be pretty similar to the previous mech I built, so I think this is a great time for a history lesson on how the FPSC was formed. Many years ago on the planet of Covera, a massive war waged between humanity and cyborg machines once used as tools to build their cities and feed their populations. During this conflict, later named the Biowars, the remaining human countries on the continent of Cocondra banded together and formed the HADF, or Human Alliance Defense Force, in a last-ditch effort to defeat the Bio-Nightmare cyborgs. Their plan was to retreat into megacities and bomb the rest of the continent into oblivion, destroying the Bio-Nightmares and their food supplies. But there was one country who refused to join the HADF too, as they saw it, abandon and destroy their world. Unwilling and unable to spare more resources fighting each other, the two agreed to a fragile peace, with the HADF promising not to bomb their capital, which was located in a valley between two mountains. This group called themselves the Free People's State of Cocondra, or FPSC, as a sign of their unwillingness to abandon their continent. The following years were tough. Trace amounts of chemicals in the air from the bombings slowly spread into parts of the jungled valley, mutating plants and animals into voracious carnivores, but the FPSC persevered, and the struggle to survive forged them into a small but strong, technologically advanced society. But even after all these years, they still hold a grudge against the HADF and what they did. Skirmishes between them and the newer Human Alliance Expansion Force have escalated as both sides are seeking out more land and resources. With the advent of the Quadrant War and Millennia Prime, the FPSC have decided it's time to make themselves known and remind the HADF that they don't have sole claim to this healing land. So there you have it. Life outside the megacity survived and has even thrived. With the entirety of this faction being in one location, resources and manpower didn't need to be spread out over a large area, and the constant fight against the jungle, remaining bio-nightmares, and the toxic environment led to many technological discoveries for the FPSC, which is why this military is more advanced than the HADF or HEF. Their biggest weakness, however, is numbers. Their entire population can fit in just one, maybe two of the HADF's megacities, since only so many people can fit in a valley, and their forces aren't quite powerful enough to start taking over and re-inhabiting the wastelands. Yet. Going back to the mech build, I've been wanting to try out this eye technique I saw in a mock built by Zachariah on Instagram. I loved the techniques used and decided to base my head around a series of red optics or eyes to give this a predatory vibe. Now we're getting into the weapons portion of the build process. A 6-barreled mortar is affixed securely on the back of the mech to provide artillery support, though these mechs can be outfitted with different weapons just like the Minotaur for different roles. Some will carry massive cannons or shields. That's the nice thing about building mechs with actual arms and hands. They can easily pick up and use different weapons without needing to be reconstructed for a new role. And speaking of arms, I'm using the dreaded molded arm piece people hate so much. They honestly don't bother me a lot, but I don't plan on using them much after this. For a novice mech builder like myself, they've been a great starting point while I'm learning to build oversized arms and hands, but I want to graduate to more mobile appendages. This particular mech has been armed for anti-infantry capabilities, and as such wields a minigun that would make even a pilot of an A-10 Warthog blush. It'll be connected to an ammo pack on the back via a bullet belt made out of mixel joints. We are so close to the big reveal, but these mechs sometimes wander into parts of the jungle that would love to eat them for lunch, so for closer melee situations I'm building a monstrous chainsword. That's right, I'm finally starting to give my mechs melee weapons. It helps when they actually have arms and hands to use them. Armed with a devastating minigun that can chew through reinforced steel and carapace alike, this mech towers over the battlefield, raining down death and destruction. Anything out of range of the gun still has to deal with the 6-barreled mortar on its back, and if by some miracle you survive both of those and got within striking distance, there's a chainsword ready and waiting. It's one of the older mechs in the FPSC and slow, so plans for a new generation of heavy class mech have already been approved and will soon be put into production. While this is the biggest mech I've built to date, it's probably also one of the most vexing. Something about it feels off to me, though I can't quite put my finger on why. It's almost too humanoid looking, and I feel like the head doesn't quite match the body, even though I really like the design. It reminds me more of a bionicle than a mech, but I'm not really sure how to amend that. I hope you enjoyed the debut of the Free People's State of Cocondra. I'm really excited to dive deeper into this faction, who are much larger and more established than the Quadranids, so there's a lot more to build and explore. This marks the beginning of the next chapter in this saga as the HAEF and FPSC escalate their fighting over land and a very valuable resource as humanity slowly creeps back out into the world of Cofera. As you may have noticed, there's some interesting stuff located throughout the map of Cocondra, which we will explore in future videos, but for now, let me know what you think of this faction in the comments, and until next time, happy building.